All right. Hey guys, welcome. It's been a little while, but we are here with another spontaneous episode of Paul Mort Talk Shit. Today, I am here with someone that I've known a very long time. But let me give you a bit of a backstory on Kim. Kim, what's his surname now?
Raine.
Is it still Kim Raine?
It is still. Well, I'm married now.
Okay.
I'm
just too much of a gangster to change her second name. I love it.
Exactly.
So here's where I'm at with Kim, because I've known Kim a long time. She's just mentioned something that I did back in the day when I was doing my best. Let's just say.
It all adds up, doesn't it?
And it all adds up. I was doing my best, and I couldn't even remember being like that, to be fair. And then last year, I got a book sent to me, and I do get a lot of books sent to me, but this one kind of smacked me in the dick hard, because it was about something that I'm becoming more and more passionate about as it's become more and more popular, and that is the topic of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And normally, I don't read these books that I get sent, even if my name is in the foreword. Even if I've wrote the foreword, I don't read them. But this one spoke to me, and I read it, and it blew me away. So the next thing I did was I invited Kim onto a session to teach our guys what she knows about ADHD. And I was like, yeah, Kim's someone that I have a lot of respect for on this, someone that actually knows what they're talking about. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for
Kim
having
Raine.
me. I'm excited to be here. I do feel nostalgic.
It's very weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the last time me and Kim, when was the last time I seen you?
Well, in the flesh was probably, oh my God, here's it. I mean, this is just going to, if we talk about, this is just gonna sprinkled with ADHD. So I came to Newcastle.
Sprinkled, yeah.
Because you were doing an event, and we were staying in a hotel. I came to see you because I'd been in your mastermind. I wasn't in it at the time, but you were having dinner with your masterminders that night. So I came over to South Shields to have dinner with you. And the next day you were having an event in Newcastle, and we all turned up at the hotel.
And it was the wrong hotel.
No Paul Mort,
oh, shit.
because Paul Mort had booked the wrong hotel.
Yes. I'd booked the right hotel, just sent you to the wrong hotel.
To the wrong hotel.
Yeah.
And so in comes Leslie, saves the day, and off we all go to the right hotel.
There we go.
Brilliant day, or as always.
That is sprinkled with ADHD, isn't it? That is sprinkled with ADHD.
There.
So Kim, tell me this then, because the last time I knew you were in that fitness game. I was in that fitness game back then. I was probably just transitioning out of it then. That would have been maybe 2015 maybe.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I remember the stuff you said that day. I remember thinking was stuff that I hadn't heard before. It was more the mindset stuff.
Yes.
I was like, wow, this is a different
new
Paul
stuff.
Mort.
Yeah, that would have been, so 2015 was the year that I really started paying attention to more things than just fucking making money and get my shit together and get my body on point. So the last time I seen you was then. And what led to your transition out of that game then?
So I was doing this fitness stuff, and then a bit like yourself, and then I went on to the nutrition, and then the hormones and the mindset, and talking to people about burnout and that. And then I was working with women, high flying, high achieving women who were done really well in their careers, but were burnt out, overwhelmed, lack of confidence, hadn't looked after their health and well-being, weren't sleeping at night, were dropping the ball left, right and centre, losing their shit here and there. I'm supposed I can swear, can't I? Of course I can swear.
Can you fuck?
And one of my clients, who was the global head of talent for a huge media company, everyone here would know, said to me, Kim, I think I've got ADHD. And I thought to myself, oh, don't be so ridiculous. You're way too clever.
When was this then?
So this would be probably about 2018. And
so kind of before, I hate saying it, but it is the truth. Before it was
went
popular and you could diagnose yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And she'd been at a conference and someone had spoken. She said, and that was just me. And then she obviously I start looking at it for her sake to learn a bit more for her. Then another client turns around and says to me, this was probably nearer the pandemic. And then the more I looked at it, I had been on, my daughter, who was 21 at the time, I'd always been on a journey of what's going on here, because I knew something wasn't quite right there. And I found this list of symptoms, and I turned around to my husband and I said, oh my God, look at this. Bad timekeeping, emotional dysregulation, disorganised, unable to, all of these symptoms, gets easily distracted, burns out, gets hyper-focused. I was like, oh my God, who is it? I was so excited. I found the answer, and he went, well, that's you, Kim. Yeah. And I was like, what? And how did I not see it?
Yeah.
But looking back, I had literally spent.
Is there such a thing, Kim, as a high functioning ADHD?
Yeah, and that's what you all my clients and all my clients. When people say, I was interviewed last year or the year before in the Telegraph,
Oh, shit. Go
Yeah,
on, girl.
I know. They sent a photographer to the house and everything.
Really?
Yeah. But you know, like, you should never read the comments, like what you wouldn't read the comments. But it was the Telegraph, so I was like, all right, you know, have a look.
Hi,
oh
bro.
my God, unbelievable, unbelievable. You know, people are, there's lack of intelligence, people just trying to get money, etc., etc. And I just thought, God, you should see the clients I work with, because they're not unintelligent, they're highly intelligent. They've got the PhDs, the masters. They don't just work in the business, they buy the business, run the business, sell the business. They are, you know, I can think of the younger ones as well, like multi-seven-figure companies, several of them.
Yeah.
It's not a lack of intelligence, but part of it is this drive, this incessant drive, which is, you know, great in some respects, but not so good in others. But that, for me, was that transition into, oh my gosh. And then I started looking around at other clients who were, like, sometimes they'd be my testimonials. They were just freaking amazing. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, they just dropped the ball. Or they'd throw some great big hand grenade into their life, you know, and it'd be like, what have you done that for? Or something. And then I was like, so I always say, Paul, look, you know, in various forms, from personal training onwards, I've been coaching now probably nearly 20 years.
Yeah. Me the
God,
same.
that's
Me the
scary,
same, yeah.
isn't it?
I've been in business 23 years this year, so that's 23 years of coaching.
You were a young thing.
Young, dumb, and full of cum, yeah.
Yes, that was
yeah, 21 when I first went self-employed.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would say this bit because I'm just like bringing it.
I'm trying not to distract you so hard. I've got so many questions. I wish I brought a pen and paper.
But I always say, you know, so for 20 years,
yeah.
And I would say officially 5 years for ADHD coaching, unofficially 8 years, but unknowingly the whole 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, I look back and I can see the elephant in the room. I can see where there were these clients that would, and it wasn't that they didn't want it. They wanted it so badly. They wanted it so badly. They were so determined. They were so invested in it, and then just something would happen and they just couldn't do what they said they were going to do.
Yeah.
And it would be frustrating. As a coach, I'd be like...
So they kind of overcommit?
They'd overcommit, or they'd overwhelm themselves,
yeah.
or they just wouldn't be able to do what they said they were going to do. Yeah. It would just be...
And is it because they said they would do like everything?
And I guess, yeah, and probably looking back for me as a coach, particularly in the health and wellbeing space, a lot of the time what you were doing, weren't you, was giving people strategies. And then coaching them to do the strategies, but a lot of it was, here's the strategy, go and do it.
A lot of it was mentoring.
Yeah, and some people were like, okay, I'll take that strategy, I'll go and implement it. And other people were like, it's not, you know, the strategy, it wasn't about not knowing what to do. I mean, most people don't need the strategy, do they? They just need to do the thing. But, so yeah, looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, those people. And some of them now have come back to me, you know, an old client who had serious eating disorders, you know, was not really my ideal client, but I've been asked to work with her by her mum, who literally pleaded me, and she was severely anorexic, so many problems. And I worked with her for a period of time, and we got her back up and running, and we got her good.
Sorry, I'm not doing, you've got to pull the mic closer to your face, sorry. Wow, okay.
Oh my God.
You gotta have the mic right here.
Okay.
You gotta, sorry. I just get, Connor, can you show that? Can you put this in the reel, Connor? Thanks for me doing this to Kim. By the way, how fat was the cock? Jesus Christ.
You're hoping some. That testosterone.
So tell me this then. So we started to discover all this for clients. When did you start to kind of go on your thing? Because it started with them. I think that happens with a lot of us. We start with service and then we're like, shit, this is more for me than it is for them.
Hang on a minute. So I remember being, you know, I'm 51 now. So I was coming into my perimenopause. You know, I was in my 40s and my life was pretty much chaotic. And I'd had my business. I'd had the boot camps. I bought and sold that business, and I'd gone on to do the coaching. And it was going okay, but I was never ever achieving what I could. And looking back, I you know, I really hadn't. And so I knew things weren't great, and I was just in this quite erratic part of my life. And it was my niece, actually. I was at CrossFit and my niece was there, and I did a cart. I mean, you know, CrossFit, they walk around on their hands and stuff, so it wasn't a huge deal, but we were doing some
and tell everyone that they do.
Yeah, exactly, and make sure everybody knows about it. And I did, just out of the blue, we were talking, and I suddenly did a cartwheel. And she looked at me, and she was studying psychology, and I went, don't you ever feel like that? You just need to do a cartwheel. And she went, well, not really, auntie, that's what they call ADHD. And it was the first time. And that thought just kind of, even though it was in my life, I just think, and then my husband said it, but it kind of percolated in my head. And then I started to have a couple of conversations with people, and everyone I said, and I thought people would go, oh, It was, but everyone went, yeah, of course you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was this growing awareness. And then there was the whole stage of the shame.
This is what I wanted to go into now, because this is where it'll become very relevant for a lot of people that are maybe listening to this, and at some point they've thought, whether they've read something online, whether they've watched a TikTok, whether they've watched an Instagram, whether they've read a book, whether they've heard somebody else talking about it, they're like, oh, they've had that moment.
Yeah.
That I actually don't think I've ever had. I've been told.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've had that moment where I think, oh yeah, that's me. I've had just other people tell me the whole time.
But I think for you as well, where you were, like thinking back to when I last saw you, you just had a real breakdown. You were in a bad place prior to that. And I think I was seeing you coming out. And so I think for you, I don't know, but it was explanations for you and maybe some relief.
I think I was misdiagnosed. I think I was so I had ADHD. And then they kind of forgot about that to keep me alive.
Yeah.
So they're like, I never really had any advice on that, because a month later I was wanting to kill myself.
Yeah.
And then they diagnosed me bipolar. And then actually looking back now, bearing in mind I'm not medicated.
Yeah.
And I look at the symptoms of ADHD, where there are big highs, there are periods of intense concentration, intense focus, followed by the inability to focus on fucking anything.
Yeah.
Which I believe are the same symptoms of what people would say bipolar is. So I actually think I was misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
So someone has this moment now of, that sounds like me. What should I do?
So I think the first thing is, it is that moment, you know, for me, it was that the shame, like I say, of like, oh my God, because everyone's going to say, yeah, of course you have. You've always been a fucking mess. You know, like, do you know what I mean? Like all those times, all those little moments of shame where I've been like, sat in rooms with people like you, and I'd watch people overtake me in life and in business.
That's interesting.
Knowing I could do these things and thinking, hang on, I've been doing this long enough. I should be further forward than I am.
Wow.
I'm stuck. And that shame comes with that, you know. Yeah. So, and then it was like, I'm going to say to these people, and they're going to be, yeah, of course you are. You're a mess. So you have to, like, I think people have that moment. Then I think, is gaslighting. Like, oh, no, I haven't got it. I'm just lazy. I just need to try harder. I just need to pull myself together. And particularly now, I've really noticed a change in the conversation. So a few years ago, my inbox was rammed with, I think I've got ADHD, or I think my child's got ADHD, but I don't want the label. Which I find now I'm like, screw the label. You need the explanation, and that's what, you know. But now the conversation is, I think I've got ADHD, but I don't want people to think I'm jumping on the bandwagon.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let me rewind back on that. What is the label? Because I just have a different relationship with it than I think most people, because it's been so long.
Yeah.
It's been so long, and I look back at my entire life, it's fucking obvious to me, right? And I don't think it's bad. So talk to me about what people, because I've actually, me and Leslie have had this conversation. My daughter, 1,000,000% has it more than me.
Yeah.
But she's special.
Powerhouse.
She's special.
Yeah.
But there's a downside, in the mess that she leaves is fucking, you've seen nothing like it, Kim.
The difference is.
But I don't want to say to her, you've got ADHD. I don't even want her to hear the conversation.
No.
But so what's the label?
And the difference is, she's got you as a dad and Leslie as a mum to guide her and to bring out the strengths and to be okay with the parts that you're not so, that, you know, sod the bits that I can't do. Like, so I think the label
is... I can deal with that. It's just happy house now. Yes. She's like, Paul, have you been burgled this weekend? I'm like, no, Nina's just been playing. So she does. She's got high levels of creativity. Yeah. She plays, she makes things, and then leaves it.
Yeah, and then leaves it everywhere. Yeah. And so, you know, as we go forward, so Nina's just going to always have to have a cleaner. Mm-hmm. And that's okay if you know that. But if you don't know that...
Nina's cleaner.
Yeah, she needs her very own member of staff. Yep. But I think the label is, you know, okay, I think for, especially in this world where, you know, we're so... You've got to be the best. You've got to be perfect, high achieving. Your kids have got to be really good. And, you know, the label is, well, you're going to be unreliable. You're going to be unfocused.
Ooh, shit, yeah.
You're not going to be able to turn up, show up. You know, for people. Is
that the label? Shit.
Well, I think for a lot of people,
you know more about it than me, because I'm just so focused on my own thing.
Label,
do you know?
Oh my God, no, and that's my whole thing is lose the label, wear the badge, because the label is what's going to hold people back. But the label, I
suppose it's not your label, is it? It's society's label, isn't it?
Yeah, it's whatever. Oh God, no, that's not my label. Yeah. But it's what it's whatever people make that label to be. Yeah. And if you're in a position, maybe you're in a corporate or in an environment where it's all very pushed back and we don't talk about things like that. And, you know, most people, not for Nina, because she's got this opportunity to thrive. And that's where my passion comes from. You know, I'm a grandma now, so my granddaughter, I don't want her growing up in a world where she's afraid of the label. I want her to think exactly what you say, like, screw the label. Yeah. Call me what you want. ADHD is the diagnosis.
Yeah.
But
do you think it's one of those things that almost needs a different name now, doesn't it? It's like, you know, I always say meditation needs a different name because it's even bastardized. Journaling needs a different name because people hate it. You know, there's a lot of things where I'm like, oh, well, if it's called that, then people will think this.
Yeah.
So it's almost like ADHD needs a different title almost.
Yeah, and I think also it is so misunderstood, and even the DSM-5 is so far behind. So
what's that?
No, so that's the, oh my gosh, Diagnostic Statistical Manual. Oh, you bet. Can we cut that bit out? Because I don't know what it is.
5's a number, but
yeah, it's 5. Yeah. But basically, it's everything that has all your mental health and well-being in it, or no well-being, but all your mental health, your illnesses, and the diagnostic criteria for those. And I think the last version, and I should actually know this because it's in our course, but it's years out of date, years and years, and we know that, and the experts know that. And so ADHD is put down as, you know, distraction, hyperactivity. But what isn't in there is
the upsides,
emotional dysregulation,
and I think what isn't in there is the upsides, man.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like that's the thing that I say. I'm like, well, the upsides are fucking incredible, and I think that's why I've got a different opinion of it than most people, and that's why it's kind of like that's why I haven't got a massive. That's why I don't like talking too much with Nina, because the upsides are fucking unbelievable.
Yeah,
I'm sure I don't want to jump in on that yet because I think there are multiple upsides to it. Talk to me then. So someone thinks they've got ADHD. The next step would be an explanation, is what you're saying, right? Getting an explanation.
Yeah, I think the next step is coming to terms with it yourself.
Yes.
And what I always say to clients is whether you get the diagnosis or not, and I will talk about the diagnosis in a minute, because I think there's a route that you can go down that is much better than what most people think they can do.
Yes.
So, and talk about the practical side of that. But I think, like, you have the realisation, and then this moment of, like I say, gaslighting. I just need to pull myself together, or da-da-da. And then either you get the diagnosis or you don't. But what I see a lot of people do is then immediately go and start talking to their loved ones and their people closest to them, which is great. But I've seen a lot of people burnt by doing that, because you want to be able to advocate for yourself before you do it, because there's a lot of, well, you've not got ADHD. Oh, everyone's got
just
ADHD
lazy
now. Yeah, you're just a bit lazy. You need to pull yourself together. Oh, jumping on the bandwagon, all of those things.
That's the one now, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the one now.
And so can you imagine that you've been in this situation where all your life you've been looking for answers, and there was a Panorama program where they looked at people getting diagnosed, and the guy really set out to try and say how easy it was for an ADHD diagnosis, and the whole thing was a scam, you know, TV clickbait. Yeah. And there was an NHS doctor, Dr. Mike Smith, his name was, and he was actually said to this guy, no, you haven't got ADHD. And anyway, the Panorama program came out on the Wednesday. On the Friday, this doctor put an article in The Guardian that basically said, I think I was, you know, actually most people that come to me for a diagnosis do have ADHD, because actually they've spent their whole life, you know, if there's something not quite right, you know that you're different. And he said what we have is not a case of misdiagnosis. We have not a case of overdiagnosis. We have misdiagnosis and underdiagnosis.
Really?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, so much. And like you just said,
what kind of other thing? Let's just say you did go to the doctors.
Yeah.
What kind of other thing may you be diagnosed with? Bipolar must be one.
Bipolar's one. Anxiety. Depression is a huge one. Massive.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it's exhausting. Trying to fight it is trying to fight it is exhausting.
Yeah. And if you don't know what's wrong, and ADHD burnout, like you said about ADHD being renamed, which I think it will be eventually. But to me, you know, I'd put a B in there. I'd call it attention deficit hyperactivity burnout disorder. Or whether the A's and the other is in there, I think probably not. Yeah. But the burnout part of it is such a huge part that is under. You
got to think about it. If there is any kind of hyperactivities, there's got to be the other side, because you can't stay hyperactive forever.
Yeah, and the hyperactivity, I think that's the other part is not really understood. Is the hyperactivity is not just, you know, jumping over furniture and
doing cartwheels,
tapping your leg and everything. It's cognitive. So it's those thoughts that do not stop, that constant bang, bang, constant thoughts that you haven't even got time in between to rationalise or even notice those thoughts. And those thoughts are driving you. They're driving your actions. They're driving what you're doing. And if you have, we know that, and I don't, it's widely believed that an ADHD child has around 12,000 negative connotations by the time they're 12 years old. Now, most children have negative, we have that, but that's such an impressionable age. What's wrong with you? Sit down, pull yourself together. You
slow down.
Slow down.
Yeah.
Just come
on. That the entire life.
What's wrong with you? You're bad. You're naughty.
Yeah.
So when you have that at such a critical age and such a formative part of your years, and then you go into adulthood, and now you have, and what happens quite often is that hyperactivity tends to go more internally as we get older. So it becomes, I believe as well, it's visceral. It's in the nervous system as well, and in your head.
100%.
Most of your thoughts that are flying through are going to be negative. And so, of course, you're going to be depressed. Of course, you're going to find life really, really
And then
hard.
you've just got that low physical energy that comes as a result, I think I said before, of fighting it.
Yeah.
I think I just stopped fucking fighting it. I think that was one of my biggest insights. And I still remember, Kim, the guy that said the exact words, 2020 in particular, he said, Dr. John DeMartini said, and he used the kid as an example. He said, for every attention deficit disorder you've got, he said, you have an attention surplus disorder.
Yeah.
He said, you put a kid on a video game, you'll not get him off it.
No.
He's got an attention surplus disorder because he's interested in the thing.
Yeah.
And I thought about that, and I was like, clearly, I mean, Dr. John's a fucking doctor on about a million different things, and I was like, that makes so much fucking sense to me. And
we don't have a deficit of attention.
No.
We don't. We pay too much
And
attention.
then I look at me school life. And I'm like, the things that, and again, I don't know whether it's an excuse or what, but I'm like, if I wasn't interested, I just fuck around. No. If I was interested, I was fucking top of the class.
Yeah.
I was top of the fucking class.
Yeah.
Unbeatable in Spanish, French, PE.
Yeah.
Right? I don't even know why I love those subjects. Less people in the class probably.
Yeah.
So I had more attention.
Is the
physical part of it. So those things that I was in, and I'm like that now, if I'm not interested in something, that's the shit that I can't.
Yeah.
That I just struggle with.
So what you have there is a classic. So it's called situational variability. So when you
what a great saying.
Yeah. So when you are in, and I was the same. I ended up in the top class for science. Now I was only there about 3 or 4 weeks because, but I had one lesson where I had a phenomenal physics teacher. I respected her. She was interesting. I mean, physics, I couldn't tell you anything about physics now. Yeah. But this one topic really got my interest. I came top of top thing. And I would, like exactly what you said, I'd excel in some classes. Yeah. And in this instance, they were like, right, we're going to put you in top. Yeah. I then turn around and next thing I've got a teacher in a white coat that's going like this. Yeah. I'm like sitting there my body is like, where's the dopamine? Where's the dopamine? Where's the interest? And I can feel the energy surging in my body. Yeah. And suddenly I've got to either shout out, do something naughty, leave, jump up,
make people laugh.
Yeah, class clown. Yeah. At some point I've got to get. And that need for dopamine is not me thinking, oh, this is boring. That's my brain's need for survival. My brain's like,
oh, really?
Freaking hell. Yeah, dopamine. No dopamine means no motivation. Our dopamine is our motivation. And so when you are doing the Spanish and the French and that, you're fired up. There's motivation. You're in flow. So what that causes is this awful ADHD paradox of exactly what you're saying. Paul must try harder. Pull yourself. We know that you are so capable of doing these things. And it's like, well, I am if I'm interested. If I'm not interested, you've got no hope.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you would have been
if we had a conversation about something that we weren't interested in, it would die out in seconds.
Yeah.
If I said, hey, Kim, did you see that Kia Storm fella? I know nothing about that guy except he said sausages. That's all I know. And his dad used to work in a fucking factory or something. Yeah. That's all I know. That's all I know. But if we talked about him, gone.
Yeah.
But if we talk about something that we're both interested in, you said, have we got all day?
Yeah.
We could have all day.
Yeah.
I have that with so many subjects. And other subjects, I'm like, you taught me about maths.
Yeah. And that's where you will thrive. And that's where, if you know, so you talk about your daughter, the fact that you know that now is, there are things that she will thrive and be phenomenal at. And there are things that, with ADHD as well, there are some things that you and I, Paul, are probably never going to be great at. And they'll be different for each of us, but there are things that we are inherently born with in us to be able to do. And there are things that, you know, we can try, and I'm better at timekeeping. I'm better at admin. I've learned a lot of things through understanding my.
You know what I'm never late for, Kim? Things that I fucking absolutely love doing. Never late for a football match, ever. Never late for jiu-jitsu. Never late for a fucking, usually a coaching call. Yeah. And never late for shit like that.
No, because you thrive on it.
So Kim, does ADHD then, you mentioned it before, and I started doing my phone, but it keeps locking. I wanted to keep writing questions down as they came up, but my phone locked. So here's a question for you then, because people think this. Does ADHD just mean you're easily distracted?
No, it doesn't just mean that. I mean, most people with
because that's
ADHD,
what people think, right?
Yeah,
Your friend Russell Kane talks about it all the time. Russell's a fucking, he is.
Yes.
Russell, we've went on holiday with him in May. The most ADHD man I've ever fucking met. He can go from quoting Jane Austen to saying, yeah, my name's Paul Moore, I'm a Geordie, I'm a fucking top shagger, within fucking 3 seconds.
But we've usually got 4 or 5 conversations going on in our, I mean, look
he has 4 or 5 different fucking accents in his head. He's being 4 or 5 different characters within fucking 3 seconds.
But look at us, like we're going all over the show.
We are.
That's how we do.
And he says it doesn't just mean you're easily distracted. So talk to me about that. Why do people think that?
I think because we can have a short attention span and we can be easily distracted, but when we find something we're interested in, we can have this hyper focus, and it can be the only thing that we're interested in. And sometimes that can.
Is that a bad thing?
Well, it's not. It's not a bad thing. It's amazing when you know how to harness it.
That's it.
But it's a bad thing when you are stuck in something that you're that either you're pushing and you're burning yourself out, or you're not.
Or it doesn't serve you. Yeah. Or it doesn't serve your. Because there are some things that I'm sure people can get obsessed with that doesn't like serve where they're at in their life.
Yeah.
Like, so for example, if I said, right, it's clearly that I love football. Right, I did a podcast this morning. I could run that podcast for 8 hours a day, easy. Yeah. But the problem is, it doesn't make any money. Hardly anyone listens to it because it's just me that's interested. Like at the minute, anyway. Yeah. But if I stop doing everything I'm doing now in my business to just focus on that, that wouldn't serve me.
But this is why as well, particularly in business. But the distraction is there is a new shiny thing over here. It's giving you dopamine. It's making you feel good.
Yes.
And it's every cell in your body. You know, this is like it's a chemical reaction you're having.
Yeah.
The trouble is, as long as you're tying up the loose ends over here, that maybe, you know, we start on a project and it's so exciting, we love it, and we're all go, and then it comes to, okay, now we need to tie up the loose ends, now we need to get to completion.
Yes.
9 times out of 10, we are on to the next project, and to go back and tie those loose ends up.
Do you think this is why often people who are entrepreneurs that figure this out have to have people around them, and this is what I've built by accident. I didn't even know that's why I did it.
Yeah.
I have to have people manage me time. I have to have people organise shit like this. Tell you where it is. I would just be like, what you on about? Podcast, 10 o'clock? Yeah. What? Why are you here?
Yeah. What are you doing here?
What are you doing at all? You're double booking. I'd always double book myself. But now that I have a team, we're all... I mean, Kath's a little bit like me, but the rest of them steady as fuck. Yeah. What you'd call compliant. Yeah. What you'd call detail orientated.
My business manager is ADHD, so that's autistic and ADHD. So she is.
Yeah, she's a ride.
Oh. But she's amazing, and she is a riot.
Yeah.
Kirsty, if you're listening, he didn't mean that.
Yeah.
But, you know, she organises, she's my second brain, so she keeps exactly what you've just said. And, you know, and you've taught me this, you don't go into business with the people that are like you.
No.
Because that's an absolute disaster. Do you know what I mean? You can have a good laugh, but you're going to go round in circles.
Nothing's getting done.
And I've done that so many times.
You fall out with each other.
Yeah. And I've had people on my team that are like me, and now I'm like, no. And I'll only work with people that understand ADHD and help me.
Yeah. It's almost like that whole yin and yang thing, that whole fucking fire and ice thing. Yeah. You need someone to fucking...
And then that allows us to be in our strengths, to excel, and because when we're doing the things that we don't like doing, that's when we, you know, have the burnouts, have the low times. Yeah. And I always say ADHD, if you are in flow, like how ADHD are you, Paul, when you're doing the things you love?
Not at all.
Yeah.
But not
when
remotely.
You're doing something you don't want to do, where's your ADHD? So, you know, when you talk to
I agree 100%. You know, it's hard. It is hard because I understood it from 2020 onwards. And I don't think it's luck, but I probably make less money as a result, but I built my life and my business around doing things that don't require, I'm not going to say don't require focus, but that don't require concentration, hard concentration.
Yeah, long periods.
Like long periods of concentration on things that I hate.
But you say you might...
And you think about that's hard.
Yeah.
It is, that's almost impossible for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you say you're making less money, but how much better is because
Amazing.
are you burning out?
I never need willpower. Never need motivation.
And I never hear of you having, I know I'm sure you have those moments still. But
I'm sick right now. I've been sick for like 10 days. But
yeah, but you're not, the Paul Mort I used to know.
I don't disappear off the face of the earth for weeks.
Yeah, I'm out of here. And poor Leslie.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God for Leslie,
I know. I'd either be under in a coffin or fucking in jail.
And it's having the people in our lives that help us to thrive and support us. And, the outcomes with ADHD, I mean, so I spoke at the ADHD 360 conference on Friday, on Saturday, and like phenomenal company, the passion those guys have.
Yeah.
Phil, the CEO, and he stood on the stage and he was talking about, 5% of the population have ADHD, but 25% of the population in prisons have ADHD, and those are just the ones that we know about.
That's the worst place possible.
Yeah.
When I think about,
imagine?
I'm watching Prison Break at the minute. Prison Break. What a fucking show! I'm rewatching it. It looks like it's made in the 80s, but I'm watching it now.
Yeah.
And I look at it and I'm like, my heart starts beating faster whenever I watch it because I couldn't imagine anything fucking worse than being. This is why I'm not staying the right side of the law.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to.
Yeah.
But like, if you think of, what I've just said, like our boardrooms, our parliament, our police force, the fire force, are full of ADHDers, okay? People with ADHD, but so are our prisons. And, ADHD is, we live in the moment, and the moment's about 4 seconds, particularly if you're as a juvenile, as a teenager. And that 4 seconds is enough to make a life-changing decision. And ultimately, you've got to think of all of you and me and all these amazing people. One different decision, and you're incarcerated in a tiny cell. And when I say that, that's the people that are diagnosed. I've heard up to like 66% of people that show symptoms that aren't diagnosed, and you have to think there. But I think there, but for the grace of God. I mean, I know that when I look at my younger days. But so having the people around you that are going to support you and that can make those differences. So having, for our children and the next generation to have people like us that are like, call it what you will. I don't care what you call it. You can call it a label. You can call it like people don't like it. It's a disorder. You can call it anything. It doesn't really matter to me.
You find a lot of people, and I've heard myself saying this sometimes. Can it sometimes be an excuse?
And that again depends on who you are, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think that people, it is an explanation.
Do you think?
I think.
I'm just going to dive in with this. This just popped in my head right now. This is ADHD.
Go for it.
Interrupting people's ADHD is fucking it. Yeah. I've gotten better at it, to be fair. So, do you think that, I'm just thinking, what would make an excuse for somebody is if they learn they've got ADHD and then don't do anything about it? Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? And then it just becomes I do that because I've got ADHD. Yeah. I'm not doing anything different. I'm just going to keep, I snort coke because I've got ADHD.
Yeah.
That used to be my thing, by the way, but my excuse was, I've got bipolar, so I need to drink and do drugs, make myself feel better.
And the thing is, so, ADHD, it's not your fault, it's not my fault that we've got it, but it's our responsibility. Do you know what I mean? So we can make a choice, can't we?
Yeah.
And so with someone like the cocaine, like
dopamine.
You're self-medicating, and cannabis, alcohol, people are self-medicating. Where once you understand ADHD, you have a choice, don't you? And you can change that. And
tell me about some of the things that I could do then. What would benefit me? What would be useful to me? What would be helpful to me? What?
I think for you and for all of us, but you are living it.
I am living it.
And that's what I try to do. It is things like, so ADHD is one of the few things where medication really is shown to be extremely positive for most people.
Yeah.
Not for everyone, and it's not
downside
for everyone.
of medication, because I've never taken any. And I think it's because I'm doing the other stuff.
Yeah, you do.
What would be the upside for me? What would be the...
So I take medication, or I took medication, interestingly, because the whole country ran out of medication. The whole world's running out of medication. So I just thought, well, I'm going to come off it. Because
there's my next investment.
Yeah. But I don't think I've got ADHD actually.
Oh,
Maybe
really?
When I came off the medication, I was like, turns out, yes, I have got ADHD.
Oh shit!
You know
okay,
yes.
Like,
all right, okay.
Yes.
However, I haven't gone back on it because what the medication allowed me to do was a bit of a pause to implement the things.
That's what I believe that's what it was like when I got diagnosed bipolar. Loudly, it just kept me. That's what I'm saying. They just kept me alive.
Yeah.
I think whatever meds they put me on, whether it was fucking Lamotrigine, had me on diazepam for a bit, funny enough.
Lithium? Did you
had
go
me
on
on
it?
lithium was the
Oh my
worst one.
God, yeah.
That was the worst one, horrendous.
Yeah.
And I think that, just like you said, allowed me to hit pause.
Yeah.
It kept me alive for a little bit. That kept you probably thinking you were going fucking insane for a little bit.
I was like hanging out for, like, the first medication that I tried was awful, and it was an amphetamine. And
I've heard that. Why would you want...
Yeah.
I didn't quite get that. Why does that
No.
sometimes work?
So
You're already
basically-
fucking hyper as fuck.
I know, but basically it sort of wakes up and settles down the brain. I don't know the like pathways and the formulas, but basically you have
Fucking
stimulants. Stimulants and non-stimulants. And interestingly enough, I've heard this with people that when they get diagnosed, they've been asked, have you ever tried cocaine? Have you ever tried
Is it always
marijuana?
yes? Is it always yes?
No.
Is it not?
Always yes. And
I mean,
how
I
do you
should hope
feel?
not if they're 11 years old.
Yeah. But how did you feel on those? And for you, it'd be like, well, cocaine was my drug of choice. Okay,
Cannabis
so we're
made me
gonna
feel
start you on-
paranoid as fuck.
Yeah, but I bet there were also there must have been some upsides to it at some point where you felt.
Yeah, I thought I was cool as fuck.
Yeah, and you felt more relaxed, and you felt maybe had a bit of clarity, had a bit of confidence.
Yeah.
Whereas marijuana, that would be my thing, because that I think so for me, I think probably a non-stimulant is probably a better thing. So we know that, you know, people are self-medicating all the time, but I think with medication, like over the years, I mean, how many people have you spoke to that have been on antidepressants for years and years, and they're not even working, they're not even happy. And I think any medication like that, it's like, go on to
Well, eventually, surely it's got to reach a point where it just doesn't work anymore because your tolerance, you reach a certain tolerance with it. Do you know what I mean?
And I think also it's like, so you're going on to it, and it's an opportunity to press pause and go, right now, what's wrong? What do I need to sort out? So I, you know, before the ADHD days, people would say to me about going on antidepressants, and I'd be like, right, let's try all of these things first. And most of what I did was getting people, they stopped taking their antidepressants because they would come and start exercising and start looking after themselves.
So they'd get rid of that. I've always said this about anything that's like, oh, you've got a chemical imbalance. That's all they used to tell me.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, surely that doesn't happen by itself.
No.
That's what I figured. I was like, surely that chemical imbalance isn't just... And I think I was more prone to all of that stuff than anyone else.
Yeah.
When I wrote my book, when you write a big book like that and you get published by a big publisher, you've got to have everything that you say has to be fucking checked out.
Yeah.
So we put studies in that I didn't even know existed, and it turns out that I actually was more prone to anything to do with that than anything to do with my mental health more than anybody else. But at the same time, I was like, well, surely I've created something here. Surely I've got to take some responsibility here.
Yeah.
And that's what got me off them, because I started doing the things that actually, whatever them pills were doing for me, surely I can create those chemicals myself as well.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that, so ADHD is what we call polygenic, so that means that it's not just, there's not an ADHD gene, but there are several genes that come together and can affect ADHD. But with all genes, you know, what they say, isn't it, is that that's the bullet in the gun. You pull the trigger. So it's your, you know, I know that right at this moment, you know, I don't need ADHD medication. Just to go back to your point as well about the side effects.
Well, remember.
I'm just circling back round before you go. And everyone has different side effects. And some people, you know, what you want to do is titrate and get to a level where you don't have side effects and it's effective. And that's where you work with companies.
And how would you know it was effective?
Because you'd be working with a professional that helps, you know, you titrate.
But for you, how would you know it was effective?
Because you probably, in its simplest form, you'd be doing the things you said you were going to do. Do you know what I mean? You'd be getting up and being able to do what you say you're going to do. And you would feel calm, and you would have space in between your thoughts to rationalise and check that thought is a worthy thought. You would maybe be less impulsive. I mean, impulsivity.
I haven't even got that. Even is that a useful thought? It comes out my mouth before I've even thought it sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is great when you're doing a bit of stand-up comedy.
But that's it. And also, it's like, you know, our events, the things that we say and that don't show, it's like if something bad comes out your mouth, how do you deal with it? And mostly for you, I imagine you kind of shake it off and think, oh, well, never mind. There's, you know, most.
Oh, I'm turning into a laugh.
Yeah, other people are like, oh my God, what did I say? I can't believe I said that. What are they thinking?
Yeah, I'm straight on to the next one.
Yeah, and they ruminate and go through that. So, but for me, one of the reasons, the kind of moment for me when I thought I don't want to be on medication, for me personally, was my son got a job that he was really proud of, and oh my God, if he won't listen to this, he couldn't give a monkey's what I'm doing anyway. But if he does listen,
he might want to listen to me.
But
Come on, man.
I tell him to listen to you. But he came along. We were on a beach in Javier actually, and he came along and he said, "Mum, I've got this job," and he got this amazing job. Now, my usual MO that I'm mum, you know, I'd have tears in my eyes, like, my God, my son, I'm so proud of you, and I'd be trying to hold back my emotions so as not to embarrass him. And I said, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. And I said all of those things. And I felt that, but my body felt different. I thought, I'm not feeling my emotions here. And it was a real eye opener of like, and then something else happened. Now that's a good thing, because if you're going off and losing your shit every 5 minutes, it's quite good to be able to rationalize those emotions. But for me, I was like, where's the line here of, and people,
you know what, that's exactly how I felt on the bipolar meds. When I was on the bipolar meds, I went from feeling really good to feeling really bad to just feeling not much.
Yeah.
Generally shit.
Yeah.
And I was doing everything else right. That was why I came off, and I was doing everything else
and
right.
Maybe
I wasn't drinking, I wasn't doing coke, I was exercising, I'd lost 4 stone. Like, I was like, why do I still feel like shit?
Yeah. And maybe that is the tipping point where you're like, okay, now this isn't working, and I'm not really, I want to be
zombie. I was like a zombie.
Me.
Yeah.
I want to get back to being me.
That's interesting.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I think I love, and interestingly enough, when I wrote the book, I interviewed a lot of my clients and people that have been late diagnosed, and every single one of them I asked, would you change your brain? And every single person said no.
Wow.
Every single one. They all said, I wish I'd known earlier. And, when we go back to what you're saying about explanation or excuse, this gives you the opportunity to be like, I've got this explanation now, and it can change so much, Paul. Like, I've seen, people go around saying, oh, I'm so stupid, I'm so useless, I'm this, I'm
lazy.
that. But having that explanation allows you to change the conversation in your head, because suddenly, and I say it's like you have validation, first of all, like, I'm not these things, I'm some things, I'm different. I've got a different operating system to others. So that's the first thing. And then people say to me, I feel a bit more ADHD since I've had my diagnosis. And I'm like, okay, this is you unmasking, being yourself, but also your ADHD, you're more open about it, even if it's to yourself. So, I might have come to you this morning and gone, okay, last week I was in Portugal on a retreat. I arrived there and I'd actually booked my own hotel. And I arrived there and I booked the wrong hotel.
Of course you did.
My hotel was an hour and a half away.
Oh, mint.
All paid for, and I'm in the wrong hotel and da-da-da. So luckily it all got sorted. But the old me would have been like, I'm such an idiot. Everyone's going to think you're so stupid. Like, for God's sake, what's wrong with her?
Yeah.
We would have had a laugh about it. But my thought would have been underneath, I am useless, pull yourself together. This is, you're on business.
Yeah.
Whereas now, those sorts of things like, oh, Kim, you just need to manage your ADHD, woman. Like, it's not me.
You delegate that shit. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I was just thinking, Kim? I think what you've seen now is, and I think probably what's happening to these clients, and certainly what's happening to me, is it's the frame that they've put ADHD in can either be, I'm going to focus on the downsides and beat myself up, or I'm going to focus on all of these fucking upsides.
Yeah.
ADHD is the reason, and this is big-headed, I don't care, why I'm so good at what I do.
Me too.
ADHD is the reason
ADHD.
that I'm so good at what I do. And I think the biggest thing for me was when John DeMartini said that, I figured out what my highest values were.
Yeah.
And I fucking doubled down on all of them.
Yeah.
And I stopped dabbling in my lowest values.
Yeah.
I stopped dabbling in it and trying to force myself to do it and trying to push myself and trying to fucking, I must do that. And I stopped doing things that I felt obliged to do. I felt that I had to do because everyone else does them. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's just things that I'm like, do you know what? I'm not even gonna dabble at that. I'm gonna delete it. I'm going to delegate it, delete it, and then I'm going to double down on things that I fucking love doing, because I never burn out when I do that. Yeah. Ever.
Yeah. And I think that's as well, like the process of coaching and having a coach and going to, because people, and they would do this before, but now I'm like, no, of course I know. They come and they're like, I don't know who I am anymore, because I've spent my whole life masking ADHD, very often looking around, not knowing. And I used to do this. Like, I didn't really know how to behave, so I'd look to other people. I think like, oh, they're bad. And particularly as women, I think that we are, there's a high.
Yeah, I agree.
In the school playground, we care. They've done a study of kids with ADHD, and what they say is, when a boy fails a test, he's like, that's a stupid test. When a girl fails a test, I'm a stupid person. And, I think with girls, we're looking around, how do I fit in? How do I, be in this group? How do I get accepted? As a mum, I was always like, how do these women do it? Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I always on the back foot? Why am I not good enough? And so when you realise, okay, I have ADHD, who the fuck am I? Who am I? Because I've been all of these things and I've got all these masks, and very often they don't know who they are. So we do the work, like you say, what are your values? What's important to you? What are the stories that you've told yourself that aren't even probably true? And the beliefs that you've formed whilst living with
I think part of it's thinking you have to do everything.
Yeah.
Thinking you have to do everything. That was a big thing for me. Well, I don't have to. And it's not even about delegate. It's not even about, because you got to think there'll be a lot of people listening who are in jobs. It's like, what do you fucking love doing?
Yeah.
Like, so how can you double down on that?
Yeah.
How can you fucking, like, so one thing that I realized last week, this is a big breakthrough for me this quarter. So I'm in a position now where I built the business that I built, and I've got the people that I've got who do a lot of the things that I don't like doing, that don't value, that require a lot of concentration. There's one thing that I haven't figured out how to delegate fully, and that is the use of PowerPoint slides. Now, for somebody that talks a lot, hate it, right? Somebody that talks a lot, online, offline, I need PowerPoint slides.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I don't need many. If I'm doing a multi-speaker event, I have like 4 slides and I just put on a show, right? I just put on a performance. Fucking props, cowboy hats, fucking women's knickers. No, that's just a weekend
anyway.
once. But I have to do PowerPoint slides when you're a speaker. And I hate doing them.
Yeah. And
I can't delegate it. No. So one thing that I realized is, like, sometimes it would take me, I'd sit in here with that door locked.
Yeah.
That door locked, and say, do not let me out until I've done these slides, and it would still take me 8 hours. No Wi-Fi in here, right? It still take me 8 hours. So what I realized was that takes a lot of willpower. That if I need willpower to concentrate on something, I shouldn't be really doing it, right?
Yeah.
So, and even if I can link those slides to doing a great job on stage, I'll still be like, oh, I could just blag it on stage.
Yeah.
But Leslie won't let me blag anything. And that's why I get paid so much money for speaking, because I'm fucking good at it, right? Yeah. So what I figured out was, you know the 5 a.m. club?
Yeah.
That's not my thing.
No.
Mornings aren't really my thing. But what I figured out was, the other week, I was like, right, I'm sick of it. I just keep coming in and trying to tempt to do these slides. I put 2 hours in the schedule, but I do things before and then be like, I'll do them then. I'll be like, I can't do these. No. Can't concentrate on them. What I realized in the morning, and again, I don't know if, I'd love your insight on this. If I get up at 5 a.m., don't let any new information in my brain. Don't check the phone. Don't journal. Don't look at my emails. Do nothing and just do the slides. No new information first thing in the morning. I'm getting 8 hours worth of work done in an hour.
Me too.
Because there's no new, and I think, would that be why? No new information in, only one thing on my mind. Know that when it's done, it's done.
Yeah, I think, and this goes against what I was actually taught when I first studied ADHD and certified myself, was that, and this, I think this applies. I think there's 2 things. I am the same. So if I have something at work that is being put off and put off and put off, right? And here's the thing.
Clearly that you don't value it.
Yeah, it's not, but when you are in that space, it's not a won't do, it's a can't do. You haven't got what you need, the chemicals aren't there. Man. And people are saying, Paul, you're letting, and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna let everyone down and da-da-da. It's not that you won't do it, it's that right there and then.
Do you know I'm doing them, Kim? My body wants to get up. It's not even just my brain. I start getting anxious in my shoulders and that. And my body starts saying, get up. Get up, move. And I'm like this, doing it. It's so fucking weird.
I found that when I wrote the book. One day I actually cried. And I didn't cry for any reason. I was sat there. It was a
Write a book is the fucking worst.
Why did we do that?
It's the worst.
It's awful.
I just got loads of help, me.
Yeah.
I got loads of help.
I sat there and it was a sunny day and and my husband bought me a beer and everyone was out and I had this one bottle of Stella that I treated myself to at the end of the day. And I sat there and I knew I had to sit there and I knew I had to sit there and I burst into tears. And I wasn't bursting into tears because it was so hard, physically hard to keep my body there. And I knew I had to do it. It was horrible.
Honestly, my body's wired to the fucking moon.
Yeah.
My body is wired. It's so weird. But what's interesting is, I don't know if you can give, this is a very selfish question. I wrote emails every day since 2012. Yeah. I've written close to 4,000 emails. My agent is like, Paul, how have you wrote so many emails, but you can't sit down and write a page in a book? I'm like, I don't know.
Because the emails are coming out your head. It's what you want there. They're spontaneous.
Fast.
It's fast. It's like bang. This is what my social
They don't require editing. They don't require any order. They're very spontaneous.
Telling you what to do. So my social media manager go, Kim, this reel would be amazing. Can you do a reel on this? And I go, yeah, sure. I'll do that for you. I'll do that tonight. I know, like, it gives about 3 days. I don't do the reel. I can't. I don't know what it is. I can't do it for her. And then I'll send her a reel and she'll go, oh, that's good. It's not what we talked about.
Well, you got about 7 from this. This is why I love doing these podcasts. Yeah. We'll get fucking 7 reels. Yeah. Not kidding.
But it's just that if you ask me to do something, if someone's telling you to do something, it's not. Whereas if it's instantaneous, write your daily emails.
Also, do you know what I love about the daily email? Instant gratification.
Yeah.
A book, there's no one cheering you on.
No.
There's no likes. I never have a problem coming up with content.
How many
but a book.
times did you need to get that bloody edit done and it comes back like
still
a
happening.
boomerang?
Still happening. Still
Honestly,
happening
you
now.
just think,
I had a
okay,
call with them last
send
week.
it off. Oh, it's back. Send it off.
We're doing a big launch on the 16th of January. It's going fucking in WH Smith and everything.
Is it?
Oh, it's the fucking. Oh, it's the full works. Big. We're doing it properly. Big hardback
Mr.
fucking run.
Mort.
Ah, huge signing them and everything, man. It's fucking wild.
I expect some invites.
But but it's like writing it was just fucking horrific.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing was I worked with a guy called Richard, and he was like, "Send me everything you've ever written," and then we just put it together, and then he was like, "Paul, can you write something on this topic?" I was like, "Habits, fucking right, I can." I've already, in fact, he has a training that I've already created on it.
Yeah.
Can you turn my words on this training I've done into a chapter in a book? He's like, yeah. So it's still me.
The other thing I do is I use my notes now, and I do the little microphone and I dictate stuff into there.
Yeah.
But I think when you're asked to do stuff, it's very, very hard because you have to create, whereas we are spontaneous, and we're creative. And I think, so going back to what you're saying about the early morning, one of us has got to stay on track here, Mr.
So
Mort.
it's like you got a fishing rod with a fucking reel on it. Yeah.
But, you know, for you, so when I was taught, it's like, what you need to do is fire up your dopamine first. So, you know, eat that frog.
Yes.
The whole thing, like get up and do the thing you don't want to do first thing in the morning. Well, sometimes with ADHD, if you really don't want to do it, there's no dopamine. So actually it's better to go and do something you love.
Like a warm up.
Yeah. Like whatever that is. It might be a workout if you ideally it's going to be some sort of workout or some sort of that.
Yeah.
But it might be listening to some music. It might be
ice bath.
But you need a good transition to stop you doing that thing and get you on to the next thing.
Yeah.
With no transition, you could stay doing the other thing and it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm like you. I actually find that if I've got something like that to do, I get up. Sometimes I don't even change out my pajamas. I just literally get up. I get my laptop.
No shit. I'm in
and
bed.
I go for it.
I'm in bed. Laptop in bed.
Yeah. And I know, and I don't do that very often.
No, neither do
I know when I do that, I'm going to get that thing
If
done.
I have to do that all the time, there's a problem.
Yes, 100%.
There is a problem with me delegation.
Yeah.
There's a problem with me plan.
And you're not
There's
doing
a problem
what you
with
want to do often.
Nah.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing. So let's talk like now. What are some of the other things that I could be doing to help my ADHD or help the listeners' ADHD? What are some of the? Because I'm a practical man.
Yeah,
I'm a practical man. We've talked a lot of theory. What are some of the practical things that I can do?
So, like I say, don't be afraid of trying medication. That is one thing because there's so much stigma around it. It's
There is.
Oh, do you take medication? Like, oh, no, out the side.
It's one of the first things that people probably talk about, and there's nothing wrong with it, is there?
Oh my God, the amount of people on antidepressants, like I say, that are still bloody depressed. And it's like, oh no, I wouldn't want to take ADHD meds. So don't be afraid to try them. They may not be for you. Most people in 5 years are off them. Either. And
I
like,
love
for
that
me, I
concept
wasn't
of using it
even
to
on
hit
there,
pause
that's
and look at you. It's almost like hitting pause and then looking at your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Hitting pause and looking at your habits.
Yeah.
Hitting pause and looking at your values.
I think I did about a year and I was like, okay. And then I got myself up and running. And I'm not saying I won't use it again. But so that's one thing. But as also, that is, you know, something for you to, that's part of your toolbox, if you like. And sometimes there might be time, but you have to have the foundations in place if you want to manage your ADHD. Now, you know, when my clients first were saying ADHD and I was like, I've got ADHD, okay. And I thought to myself, how come I've always been the coach and not the coachee, which I have always had a coach, but I've not been. And I looked back and I thought, you know what? I've always exercised. I've got a dog that I walk every day. I meditate regularly. My mindset is very much of a positive nature. I do my gratitude, which I don't even do as a set thing now. I'm just a positive person. You know, I'm always like looking for things. All of those things are things that I've just done and become. I wasn't like that. At 18, I was a size 18. That is not who I was, but that's who I'd become. Now, that did fall off the ledge a bit in my 40s because my hormones change and things change and gradually, and I suppose COVID and everything, and that's when my ADHD really ramped up. So for me now, I'm like, okay, what are my absolute non-negotiables? And my non-negotiables are, I have to be, and it doesn't matter how you work out or what you do, cardiovascular workouts.
You want kind of a positive dopamine hit.
Yeah.
So that serves you rather than fucking is
like
negative.
Your, what is it? Brazilian.
I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. Exactly.
For some of the ADHD, for me, it's fucking incredible.
And also for that, I would say, if you look at the science, martial arts particularly, and things with balance, if you want to get, scientific, are the things that are really good.
Was that why Nina loves skiing and surfing?
Well,
those are our two favourite sports.
And it's the cerebellum. So actually, you can, what's his name? Dr. Ned Halliwell talks about strengthening your cerebellum by doing balancing exercises.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like I get, with my granddaughter, if we're in the woods, I'm always getting her to climb trees and balance on trees and do stuff like that. So Tai Chi, that sort
I think you just got to find an exercise. And I get asked about this weight loss thing all the time because, well, I've got in decent shape. And I'm like, you just find an exercise that you love. Doesn't even matter what it is. Doesn't have to be optimal. Oh, well, you should be weight training if you want to do it. Well, I'm still weight training, but it's not my favourite thing.
No. And also, I think for us, I know for me, I like it to be a bit scheduled. So I did CrossFit for ages and I loved it because there was a start and a finish. Yeah. I had to be there on time. I don't do
Couldn't
CrossFit
fuck around.
anymore.
Couldn't look at your phone.
Yeah. Oh God, no. It was like bang, 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 bang. I don't do that at the moment. And I'm at the gym and I have to sometimes be like, okay, I'm going to go to gym first thing in the morning. Well, if I don't put something in to say I'm going to be there at 7, that could be 8, 9.
I have a PT for both of my sessions.
Yeah.
And even if I don't train with him because he's away or whatever, I need to get an extra one and I'll train with Leslie.
Yeah. And have
and do whatever she's doing.
We, as ADHDs, what we do struggle from is one thing to another. So we struggle to transition. And we
fucking hell, man.
Yeah. So
Shit.
if you
none of the team get that, I can't do that.
No.
I'm like, I can't go from talking about mindset to then going, hey, could you do a talk on business? I'm like, no, they're two different things.
And when I was doing one-to-one coaching, I'd have my coaching all over the week.
Yeah.
And I'd think, okay, well, I've got, 2 here. So in between those sessions, I'll do X, Y, and Z. But I didn't. I just scrolled.
Holy fucking shit.
So now I just have, if I coach, it's all in one day. If I
Mate, you've seen my days. You've seen Wednesday. Zoom, I'm on Zoom for 10 hours, but I'm not on Zoom on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'm not on Zoom on a Thursday. And I'm often not on Zoom on a Monday or Friday.
Yeah. You taught me that years ago about having
if you have to eat shit, don't nibble. That's my new one. If you have to eat shit, don't nibble.
That is true, though.
And, I'm not eating shit. I'm just, like you say, that transition thing.
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone else say that, so I feel fucking liberated. Honestly, I've never heard anyone else say that.
No. Well, you think you're going from A to B, so that's quite challenging for us. So make sure you've not got to transition too much between things and time block, whatever that looks like. My brain's gone totally dead. I can't.
Of course it has. We're talking about practical things for ADHD.
So I think as well, education is absolutely key. So I think the more you know, the more you're going to understand. Because I think those light bulb moments, and you were saying about when you get diagnosed or you have that moment, you will go on a roller coaster of light bulbs of like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah.
But that is the liberation that's allowing you to think, right, you're going to better understand yourself. You're going to know what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and give you the opportunity to go, actually, that doesn't work for me that way. I'm going to do it this way. And I think to do things your way and understand yourself and be okay with that.
It's weird. I feel like I figured this stuff out on my own. It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just realise what works for you. I'm just like, does it require, if it requires willpower, I'm like, this is mental. So we run a 7-figure business with fucking close to 400 clients. I don't go in any meetings.
Yeah.
And people think that's really what you say, or that doesn't go in meetings. I'm like, I fucking hate them.
Yeah.
I distract everybody. They take ages. I'm bored as fuck.
I can imagine.
I'm so fucking shit in meetings, so we've just manufactured it almost. Yeah. The whole business is manufactured around because ultimately I'm the fucking performer in the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm the fucking dancing bear.
Yeah.
So it has to serve me more than anybody else. Yeah. Obviously the clients, but I'm like, well, if I'm in meetings, then I could be doing shit that I really want. Like, honestly, meetings, I fucking despise them and I ruin it for everybody else.
I can imagine.
Because I'm in a bad mood when I'm there because they know I don't want to be there. I'm not listening to them. I'm waiting for something to kick off about.
Distracting them.
And it's just fucking awful.
But that's, again, playing to our strengths, isn't
that's
it?
what it is.
Understanding. So
that's what it is, Kim.
For people in business, or whether it's your health and well-being or whatever, know what your strengths are.
Yes.
So, if you know, like me, that unless you have something that's going to make you accountable, you're not going to do it. Make yourself accountable. Find someone, train with someone if you can't afford a PT, or if you're in business, a thing like clever people employ clever people. I employ people in my business now, or use people in my business who are better at me at what they do, because I know I'm good at what I do.
Yes.
So actually, I'm like, okay, you can.
You like spreadsheets, Kim?
Oh God, no.
Hate them with a passion. Can't look at them.
I don't like spreadsheets. No, I like my figures.
Like, don't even show me that. Don't even show me that. Show me the fucking bullet points.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah, and what you've got stuff, and there's so many tools for us out there now. AI is going to change the game for those with ADHD.
Really?
And actually, if you think about it, AI is about, I think we are really going to come into our own, because AI can't be our mind. Well, it is our minds, isn't it? But the creativity of somebody that's neurodivergent is
can't be replaced by AI. I agree.
But there's a lot of stuff that can be.
For some reason, I said to Leslie yesterday, this is so mad. Me and Leslie had a random conversation where I was like, I could be a copywriter. Like, I could legit be a full-time copywriter, which is weird. And she was like, do you not think AI is going to replace them? I was like, nah. That's one of the things that will not get... AI doesn't care. And it has... for me, it has no creativity.
It's not going to be able to. Because I say to my guys, like, okay, chat GPT. So, for example, you say about your daily emails or your social media or stuff that you've got to do like that. Go on chat GPT. Don't, for God's sake, rely on chat GPT.
I'll be chat GPT every day of the week.
If you need something to help you transition, or us getting started with ADHD is always the hardest part.
So it's great for ideas, actually.
Yeah, so
it's great for like, can you give me 10 ideas on this one idea that I've had?
And then you'll go, right, that is rubbish. But now I've started, now I know. And also, if you've got to sit down and do a task, what's the part of the task that will get you started? And I think the other thing with ADHD is with ADHD, you see everything comes in at the same time. Like I say, we don't have a deficit of attention. We see too much, we feel too much, we pick up on too much. But our intuition is brilliant because of that. Trouble is, we don't trust our intuition because of all the years where we've felt that we've wrong, or we've got it wrong, or we've cocked up, or we've turned up at the wrong hotels and all these things.
I'm all right in my intuition. Leslie doesn't trust it. She's like, Paul, you're going to not do that. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing it.
No.
It's so weird.
And so often we're right, but we don't. I also do put the caveat of, before you do anything like big purchases or anything,
run it through someone else.
Run it through somebody else, because we are impulsive.
Yeah.
And we do have, and very often, like, people suddenly, oh my God, I've got ADHD. Stand back, look at their life, and think, how the hell have I got here? I don't want to be here anymore. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And there can be grief and anger over, where you are, where you've come from, why people didn't look at it earlier. The marriage that you're in, the job that you're in, the financial situation you're in, your health and well-being. And with ADHD, because it all comes in all at once, and suddenly we have to do it right now because we're impatient and it's in the moment, because, in a week's time you'll have got used to having ADHD, and it would,
My mum called me impatient this morning, actually. She said, Paul, you're so impatient. And I said, well, actually, my impatience is I just said this is where I'm at, because it's a blessing.
Take action.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
I mean, patient is very useful sometimes.
Yeah, patient is very, but I think as well, when you, like, if you're in that situation, people say to me, oh God, so I've had women leave their marriages, change their companies, leave their jobs, because suddenly you look around and you're like, hang on a minute, and you have this new information. And I say it's like having a new pair of glasses on. Suddenly you're looking around and everything looks different, and you can look back and you will review your life through the eyes of ADHD and think, oh, that was my ADHD. And suddenly it's not an excuse. If you behaved badly, you still behave badly. You're a human being.
I agree.
You have to have agency. Yeah. However, you can say,
it's like it makes more sense.
Yeah, it makes.
You can make sense of things.
Yourself.
Yes.
And when you can forgive yourself, it's just empowering for you to be able to be like, I need to do these things. So I think that going back to what we can do practically is, are you playing to your strengths? Do you know what's important to you? Because if you're not, like you say, life is going to be hard. You're going to feel like you're walking through treacle. And I'm not talking about going out and burning it all down in one go. Go and work with a coach. Go and implement these things.
I've done that also.
How many times? I mean, God, I've walked out of jobs. I've walked out
of a business and just stopped it. That was doing 30 grand a month profit. Just stopped it. You know, the whole newsletter?
Yeah,
and
that was amazing, that newsletter.
It was 30 grand a month profit, and I just closed it down because I hated it.
Yeah,
but I didn't have the right.
We call it hit the fuck it button.
I hit the fuck it button, but I also didn't have a team. I didn't have a team of people around me who were sensible and that were rational. Yeah, that's the word. Rational and objective. And I didn't have any objectivity.
So how many times were you transitioning a day doing that?
Hundreds of times.
And that's burnout, isn't it? And that's overwhelm.
And that's what happened.
And what happens is when you're in that situation, your amygdala, the part of your brain that's going, I'm not safe. This is, danger. I'm not safe. It's because your brain is like malfunctioning. Yeah. And you can't think. Once we get into those situations where we're overwhelmed, our prefrontal cortex. So with ADHD, we talk about executive functioning, and executive functioning is your ability to plan things, your ability to do what you say you're going to do, turn up on time, regulate your emotions. All of these things that are held in the prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that develops last. And in ADHD, we know there's a 30% developmental delay, which is why we're so immature, but that's also why we're so young at heart. And
shit, okay.
You know, we're like, I remember saying to my son at school, like, how come all your friends have got ADHD, Freddie? And he went, because they're all the best people to hang around with. And they are the funniest.
But I still laugh at farts.
Yeah.
Sometimes if I hear a fart in a public stall, I give them a round of applause,
oh
mate.
My God, yeah, public
Great fart,
brilliant.
mate. Great fart. Yeah, honestly, that's bad, isn't it? Funny enough, I say that, do you know, we talk about the funniest people. For some reason, I've got a lot of friends that are comedians.
Yeah.
Right? And it's actually, it's working in my favour right now because I'm getting gigs that I shouldn't really get at my level.
Okay,
I've done 3 gigs and I've got one in 2 weeks with a fucking guy that won Britain's Got Talent, which is, I've done 3 gigs.
Yeah.
I've got clients that have done 30 and 40 gigs and they're good. But all of these guys that I know, it's because they're ADHD as fuck.
Yeah.
Russell King, Chris Ramsey, Carl Hutchison, James Kilvin, and like these comedians, dapper, same ADHD as fuck, all them.
Oh my God,
all of them.
yeah.
But that's probably why they're funny, immature.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's the immaturity, and also
that's mental, man.
It's the observation. It's the ability we can see. You know, in a crisis, like my daughter said to me once. She said, when my daughter got diagnosed, she said 2 things straight off to the psychologist. Number 1 is, brilliant. Does that mean I get a fast pass now at Chessington? I was like, you're 21 years old, for God's sake. No. and number 2 was, he said, you know, Jordan, you're going to have trouble doing the day-to-day stuff. And she went, yeah, but I've always known if there was a zombie apocalypse, I'd know exactly what to do. And that's us. We would be the people that would be like, and we galvanise, we create. I'm reading a book at the moment called Schindler's Gift, and it is about Schindler, about how he had ADHD.
Really?
And the movements. And when I have a discovery call with a client or you speak to them, these people are phenomenal. They movements and change and real social, we really make a difference.
I think that we can, now that you're saying that, I bet, because you said the word discovery and you said the word like zombie apocalypse, I think because of the levels of creativity, we're probably better at creating visions of our future, goals, outcomes. We can get imaginative with those things.
We are, but
does the how-to overwhelm us?
We have something called temporal discounting, so we can create the forward vision, and this is where we fall down. We can create the forward vision and we can get really freaking excited, but we live in the now.
Yeah.
So if we've got the vision that is, I want to lose 2 stone for my holiday, but that's 6 months away, and right now there's a great big plate of, you know, curry or donuts in front of me, the ADHD brain's going to go, have the donuts.
So we need the right level of urgency as well, don't we?
Yeah, we need the right level of urgency.
You know what, this is mad. There's a book that changed my life on that. Do you know how I'm doing everything in 90 days, don't I now? I read a book called The 90-Day Year, and it's such a great fucking book, right? It's very basic.
Yeah,
but it basically said that 12 months is too far.
Yeah.
Anything else is too short, and we'll get too overwhelmed because it's too short. There's too much pressure, too much urgency. And it just said 90 days is the perfect fucking level for setting goals. What you just said there makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit of room to fuck around, a little bit of room to fuck around, but not too. There's a little bit of room to procrastinate and put a bit of shit off, but not enough room that you do nothing.
No.
And there's a little bit of urgency, but not so much urgency that you do nothing.
And we've got to keep it alive. We've got to keep it exciting, but also
got to keep it alive. I love that.
What we've got to do is celebrate our wins, which I know you're massive on.
5 a day, every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, because otherwise, as ADHD, we move so freaking fast. We fly through life. I mean, think of the things that you've done. I think of some of the things that I've done in my life that I'm just like, oh yeah, I did that. Yeah, no, nothing. Because I'm on to the next thing. I remember like the day my book launched, everyone's like, are you having a party? And I was like, no, because I was over that. I was on to what's next. So we don't stop to appreciate how far we've come.
Yeah.
And so actually it can seem like we've never achieved anything. It's never enough. And, you know, for me, coaching, it's always been about enough. It's always people thinking I'm not enough, or I don't do enough, or I don't have enough, you know? And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's good to think I need to do a bit more.
The whole thing for me is like a blessing and a curse, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which one it is, whichever one you put the most attention on. I put more attention on all of that in the blessings. The curse is there sometimes it'll bite me in the arse. But most of the time, I put my attention on the blessings, that's why I love it, having ADHD.
Yeah.
I fucking love having it.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing, I'm not sure whether you've heard me say this, but do you know when something just fucking melts your brain, you're like, holy fucking shit, that makes so much sense. This guy called Kerwin Ray, he's ADHD and autistic, Australian guy, he's brilliant. he showed a clip where he said ADHD is a hypersensitivity to boredom. And I was like, fucking hell. And I was like, well, boredom doesn't mean do nothing.
No.
It means tasks that are boring, activities that are boring. I was like, I am hypersensitive to boring shit.
Yeah.
Hypersensitive. And that's when I start fucking looking for ways to fuck it up, or I'm just not paying attention, or I interrupt the conversation completely, and I change the direction completely. I won't do that if it's exciting to me.
Yeah.
I haven't really done that today.
No.
I've got excited for a question, but it's not like, let's change subjects. This is boring as fuck.
Boring.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
And boring to us is our kryptonite. It's I mean, I hate when people say ADHD is a superpower. I mean, if you're talking to a 4-year-old, great. But, you know, I'm 51-year-old, perimenopausal woman. I was in Portugal last week with no hotel to stay at for a little while because, I lose my keys. My life can be really hard
lose things
sometimes.
all the time?
I lose things.
Leave things behind?
I mean, my thing is, and I see this in my daughter, is getting out the bloody house. Because the amount of executive functioning it takes, if you think to get up, and when you have to do school runs, when the kids were young,
military operation,
and that takes a lot of our bandwidth. So if you think, a neurotypical person, whoever this neurotypical person is, because who is this? No one's neurotypical. We're all the product of our stories and our experiences, etc. But supposedly, someone that has their prefrontal cortex fully developed by the age of 25. Let's say Leslie,
yeah.
The Leslies of this world can say, right, I need to get up, I need to get the kids dressed, I need to do this, I need to do this. For me, my bandwidth is having to do all those things is hard. So actually, I can.
Well, I've got jiu-jitsu 6 o'clock tonight. What top am I going to wear?
Yeah.
What am I going to focus on in the class? How am I going to get there?
Yeah.
What am I going to eat after?
Yeah, I've got to remember my keys. And what we have actually with ADHD is, so we have the default mode network. So the default mode network, we all have it, is when we're daydreaming. Is like it's where our creativity lies. And in ADHD, that's overactive. So that's hence we're so creative. We have our task positive network. So that's when we're doing the thing that we're doing. So we're in the moment and doing the task. We also have problems with working memory. So if you think you've got the default mode network, the task positive network, what should happen is when one's on, the other's off. With ADHD, that doesn't work. So we go flick between the two. And sometimes there can be a lag. They're both on. So I can be like, okay, get to the front door. Oh, Christ, did I turn the oven off? Okay, oven's off. Get back out to the car. Oh, my God, did I lock the door? Go back to the door. Oh my gosh, did I do this?
Have I got my phone?
Yeah. Where's my phone? Lost my phone. Okay, there. And then usually drive off and then come home later and find I've left the door wide open.
Yeah. Kim, do we get this thing? And now that you're saying that, there's something do we have either things that take way longer than necessary, way longer than they should, and do we get things done way faster than anybody else? There's no in between.
Yeah, so
that's what that sounds like to me.
What we do
and get things done faster where people are like, how the fuck have you done that so fast? But also, how's that taking you so long?
So what we do is we massively overestimate the amount of time something we don't like is going to take. Okay, so if you like,
that's where the slides.
Yeah, the slides, exactly. And for me, if someone said, "Can you go in and clean your bathroom?" To me, I have visions that I need a whole
day
suit, and I mean that would just be the worst thing, like a whole anti-toxic suit. And
hazmat suit, innit?
Yeah,
hazmat. Yeah,
just overthinking the whole thing. But ask me to, I don't know, put together something. I'm like that. So we massively overestimate the things that we don't want to do or we struggle to do, and we massively underestimate. Hang on a minute. Have I said that right? Right. We massively.
No, you haven't. We underestimate how long things. How long that we hate it'll take.
Yes, and we overestimate how quickly we can do the other things. Basically, if we want to do something,
are you ADHD by any chance?
if it's something we love, we are gonna underestimate how long it's going to take us. Yeah, we'd be like, okay, no worries, I'll do that in 5 minutes, and actually we might spend longer doing it. I still don't know if
because we love it.
Way, but you get the right point. But if it's something that we don't want to do, we are going to think, oh my God, that's going to take hours. Yes. It's going to take so long. The slides, you're sludging your way, dragging your way to do this. Sometimes it might be a 5-minute task, but in our head, because we have something called time blindness, part of our executive function is we're not great with time. We do underestimate the passing of time, and we're not aware of it. Yeah. My whole thing is always like, if you say to me, okay, you've got to be there at 9 o'clock, Kim, my brain is like, okay, so, it's in the next town. It's going to take me 5 minutes to get there. I'm going to start getting up and putting my shoes on at 5 to 9. And I might get there if everything's in place. If there's no traffic, if there's a parking space right out there, I might get there at a few minutes past 9. Now I understand, okay, Kim, 9 o'clock, you need to reverse engineer that.
Yes.
And actually you need to start getting up and getting ready at 8:30
Yes.
to get out.
Yes.
That's taken me many, many years to get
Yeah,
that.
me too. Yeah, me too. Talk to me about this. How did you end up running this certification for coaches? Like,
that was
because I think this is brilliant. I think there'll be a lot of coaches listening to this. I think any of you guys who are really interested in taking your services to the next level or helping your clients, that you'll recognize a lot of these traits and symptoms in people you're coaching, right?
Yeah.
That's how it all started for you.
100%.
Tell me about this.
So it was a couple of things. When I did the book, inundated with people, still get messages from people that read the book, and I just couldn't cope with everybody. I couldn't take them on.
Yeah.
And I was looking around, and what I was seeing was lots of people that were coming up that were coaches that had ADHD, that were now ADHD coaches. You know, it's a great marketing thing, like the industry is booming.
Yeah.
I'm seeing people that have ADHD that are remarketing themselves as ADHD accountants, ADHD financial advisors.
By the way,
there's a lot of shame.
I'm going to jump in here because I forgot to say it before. Accountants will get killed by AI.
Do you reckon?
100%.
Well,
there is nothing that they do that AI cannot do.
Yeah.
Nothing, because it requires zero creativity.
And a lot of legal services as
yeah,
well.
they're all moving now. I'm seeing accountants moving to business coaching.
Right.
Because their accountants are going to fucking...
No, and I think, okay, so here...
AI will crush anything to do with numbers.
Yeah.
AI will fucking kill them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, aren't you? And again, I think the coaching side of it is, you know, we've just had a couple of accountants certify who are working with clients who, doing their accounts, but also dealing with the financial, because the fallout financially with ADHD is huge. You know, businesses lost, bankruptcies, impulsive spending.
Not tracking shit.
Yeah.
Why would you track anything to do with numbers? I think it's a problem for ADHD people.
I never tracked anything in my business until I've outsourced it.
The only funding I ever had in business, was I'd been in business 2 years and hadn't done any accounts.
Yeah.
So the local authority hired a lady to come and work with me to go through my bank statements, get the fucking receipts. It was fucking, for 6 months I had to do that.
Yeah.
It was fucking horrific.
And then you find
every week, Fitch was probably listening. Faye Judson came to my house every week and did all of that shit, and it fucking melted me.
And then you're in mess, because have you put your VAT by? Have you put your tax by? So basically what I was seeing was a lot of people rebranding themselves as ADHD, X, Y, and Z. And yes, they might be experts in that, but having ADHD, it's a spectrum. Like we've talked about, your ADHD and my ADHD present totally differently. And I was then seeing people that were working with these people, paying a lot of money to work with these people, and coming away more confused, more ashamed.
Because we're giving them more to do, maybe.
Well, also they were doing it through the eyes of their ADHD, you know? And so, also I had people I wanted to refer to. So being in true ADHD, and had to go to America to do my training. So in true ADHD style, I thought, I'm just going to do this. You know, I've got a background. I used to train people to be personal trainers many years ago. So I kind of had an idea of it. So we got the certification. And then I was like, it was going to be a little certification.
Also, that's a pain in the ass putting together a certification. For someone with ADHD, Jesus.
Outsourced it, though.
Yeah. But you got to have this, and you got to have this, and you got to have this, and you got to have the X amount of hours. I'm like, well, that only takes me 2 hours. Why would it take someone else 20?
All of that. We had, but it was really important to me because, you know, it's an unregulated industry. So it was going to be like, I was like, okay, as long as it's got like 26 CPD points, we're good to go.
Yeah.
It's 220 CPD hours.
Oh, shit.
And it's a huge, even if I do say so myself, Paul, it's freaking awesome. I'm not going to lie. I'm so proud. We've got doctors doing it. We've got psychotherapists doing it. And then we've just literally become ICF accredited as well. So now we've got the way to take them on to do the ADHD coaching, which is, it's not the, I won't go into the boring parts of ICF, but again, it's just the hierarchy in there. But yeah.
I was already thinking about changing the subject.
Boring. But the point being, you know, so speaking to at the ADHD 360 conference, the guy there, Phil, was saying, the CEO of ADHD, last week, they had 1,000 referrals from the NHS with ADHD diagnosis.
That's insane.
And when you're diagnosed, you get, well, you know, congratulations or not, you've got ADHD. With ADHD 360, I know you get a lot of support, but that's not the case with everywhere. And it's like, do you want medication? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Wait to be titrated. That can be up to 6 months, even longer waiting time. Yeah. Or no. Okay. Off you go. Good luck. We need people to pick up the slack here. And I think that what's happening with ADHD is, now I know I've got ADHD. I only want to work with people that understand ADHD because they can bring out the brilliance in me.
Yeah.
And I think that,
walk him. Now that you've said that, I only want to work people who understand ADHD. If I go back to my troubled time in 2014, 2015, I saw every ist going, right?
Yeah.
And every time I sat in front of them and I could be like, you've got no fucking idea what I'm going through here. And I just fucking switch off. Yeah. I remember one lady in particular, like it was yesterday, it was around the corner next to Asda. I saw a professor. She said, you're manic now. I was like, no, I'm not. She said, you're manic. I was like, I'm not fucking manic. This is my energy on a good day. I'm not manic. And then I was like, that's when I was done with that whole thing. Yeah. And then I remember seeing a video. This is how I ended up in California, funnily enough, with Garrett White. He did a video where I was like, he's talking about me in a way that I'd never heard anyone. Yeah. That's kind of what happened to you. Yeah. That's kind of what happens to everybody. It's like a light bulb goes, oh, fucking hell, he gets it. Yeah. And that's what sent me on that route. So that's kind of the same thing that happened. And that's the
difference, isn't it? Because when you work with someone that can understand you,
they're not just speaking from a textbook. Yeah. They're not just... Yeah. No,
there's their knowledge, their lived experience, and their ability to hold space for you in a space where you're going to thrive. But if you're in a... You know, I've just had a situation with a client who's invested quite a lot of money in somebody that's an ADHD expert. She's not. She's an ADHD expert in her own ADHD. Yeah. And a skill. She's put the two together, but my clients come away feeling more ashamed than ever.
Really?
Being given loads of homework to do it. I think that understanding... You know, just because I would say to anyone, just because someone's got ADHD doesn't mean that they are the person to help you unless they've trained either with my good self, if they want to be the best, or with another provider. Yeah. But, you know, I think that we deserve that now because we know now. And I also think, I feel really passionate that if you are going to work with people, and I'm not just talking about ADHD, you know, any neurodivergent people or any people in any space, like you why would you take money off people and get people to invest in you as a coach and not be certified and not have invested your time and money and effort in being the best you can be for those people?
Where can I find out more about that?
You can find out more about that at the Neurodiversity Training Academy.
Great name.
Really long name for a website and a email.
And hard to spell. And hard to spell. Neurodiversity.
Literally, I have to spell check every time I write it because I spell neuro, I go NU rather than NE. Yeah. Dyslexia
and that's exactly how I would spell it.
Comorbidity with ADHD.
Comorbidity.
A horrible word.
But it is, isn't it? What about anxiety and ADHD?
ADHD. So I haven't got the stats in front of me, but
they must go hand in hand.
Huge. Yeah. So the things, you know, if you're sitting there and you've got anxiety for no reason, you've got depression, or you're struggling with, you know, dyslexia, dyspraxia.
Maybe you've been diagnosed bipolar,
eating disorders. Huge amount, you know, like eating disorders, Tourette's. We're seeing so many things that have a connection to ADHD. Wow. And what I say now is, look, what if those things aren't the cause? What if they're the symptoms? And the ADHD or autism, and, you know, we see a lot of crossover with ADHD and autism. Not everyone. I'm not autistic, but a lot of people with ADHD are. I think it's about 50%. But what if these things aren't the problem? What if these are what if the other things are the symptoms? Yes. And ADHD is the cause. Yeah. And it can be as simple as just changing tactic.
Yeah. And the reason I bring that up is because I fixed the anxiety that I suffered with figuring out that when I was bored, I was anxious. Yeah. Those two things went hand in hand for me.
Boredom I had not a panic attack. Is not good.
The same. The last panic attack I had was in 2018 until I went to Everest this year. And I wasn't Everest. God, yeah, it wasn't the walking. Insane. It was the fucking boredom. I had a fucking complete meltdown on day 8 or 9. I wasn't very well.
A lot of thinking
to start with. Well, because some days you only hike for 2 hours and you're sitting around in a place. Yeah. No TV. I didn't basically prep anything to keep to put my attention on. Didn't have any TV things download. Didn't have anything to do. Yeah. Except fucking think, and that wasn't great news for me.
And your mind goes fast.
And I got my head around it eventually by thinking, oh fucking hell, because I wasn't doing any major journaling because you could hardly take anything with you. Yeah. There wasn't anything. I was like, shit, yeah, that it hadn't presented itself for years. Yeah. And because I thought I'd fucking solved it. Yeah. But boredom just popped up for me. Last question came completely off. It's not off topic. It's on the same topic, but it just doesn't fit with where we're at because I was about to wrap that up.
You can do that.
If I think one of my kids is ADHD, which I do. It's a selfish question. What would you do?
Okay, so first thing to say about 11. That, ADHD is highly hereditary. Mm-hmm. So if you've got ADHD, there's a high chance that your child will have ADHD. Yes. So I think what I've seen a lot of is children year 4, 5, 6, teachers or parents thinking, oh, I think they've got ADHD. They're not they're not getting diagnosed until they're leaving
weird.
school.
She's year 7 and she's doing really well at school.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Always wants to be in every conversation, always interrupts, always wants to be the centre of attention, always talking, creative as fuck, messy as fuck, doesn't care about mess. And I'm like, you're a girl, you should care. But then I'm like, you know what I mean? Do you know what you think? Oh, girls' rooms are tidy.
Think of the executive functioning needed to be tidy and neat, and you know, it's exhausting. So
she's so fucking creative, man. It's wild how creative she is.
I know that you say you don't want to have the ADHD conversation with her, but actually the explanation would be valuable. I
at
think,
11, or would you? Because she doesn't see.
It's not a problem for her yet.
Well, she doesn't see any problems.
Yeah, so
she doesn't see any problems.
No.
She's naturally positive.
Yeah, so you literally water and shine those strengths.
Yeah,
and
that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I've no doubt for you that you are. But what I'm seeing is children going at that age and then leaving school, you know, year 11 with like 1 GCSE and finally getting a diagnosis on all that time. And what we know is that actually, if you have ADHD, at the moment she's cocooned in school. Yeah.
She's in a private school with 15 kids in a year as well, so I think she'll do better.
Think about that 30% developmental delay. What that delay is, that's social. That's you know, basically things can. She's not. I don't know if she is, but there's a whole puberty thing to come in, and hormones and ADHD, like they are. Could that
exasperate them?
Oh my gosh, yeah, so exasperated. So you might see her really dip, and that might be the time to have the conversation. But also playing to the strengths. But I think for anybody that hasn't got you as a dad and the child isn't in a private school, there's a couple of things that you can do. So
she's privileged.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what you've worked for, isn't it?
Yeah,
like, that's
absolutely.
what you've worked for. And you want her to be able to make the most of that opportunity. But for those that haven't, you know, so I'm seeing what we want is as much help and support as we can get as early as we can for these kids, because actually it can make a huge difference to their educational outcomes. And think about what I said, you know, that then those 4 seconds that they've got can make those decisions. So we want to get that as quickly as possible. So I would personally say go for the diagnosis. Now, what I don't know, if the site that I would suggest people go to is ADHD UK. There's loads of great information on that site about how to get to be diagnosed. I know with adults, if you think you've got ADHD, this is quite important actually, and you want a diagnosis, you go to your doctor. You go on the website and you Google right to choose. And you can go to your doctor and you can ask for the right to choose diagnosis, and that's going to cut your waiting time. If you go to ADHD 360, you'll be seen in 18 weeks.
Oh, sure.
If you go the NHS route, you've got like the 3 to 5 years
wait.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, up to 8 years.
Hell, man.
So knowing the right to choose, and you have
up to 8 years.
We all have the right to choose. So any mental health condition, you go to your doctor and you can choose your provider. So that is going to cut that. Now, I don't know off the top of my head if I've got a feeling that that's not available for children. Yeah. But do that and get to work on it as soon as possible.
Shazam. It's interesting because I'm just thinking about all the downsides and that now and the suffering. It's only me that I'm getting the downsides of having to pick up her shit.
Yeah. You're seeing having
she's
to pick
winning.
up her shit.
She's winning.
And she's winning and she's happy. But if she's, you know, if there comes a time where, you know, that cognitive, because in girls what we know is they tend to be a bit more inattentive. Yeah. Their hyperactivity tends to be more cognitive. Yeah. So those racing thoughts, and if it becomes a problem for her, having that explanation I think is really valuable.
Yeah, it probably, again, I can see little bits of problems presenting themselves, like a little bit of anxiety that wasn't there before.
Yeah, and when you can understand that, you're taking yourself out of the equation, but when you don't know, you're going to think it's you. Yeah. And that's, I think.
You know what's mad that she does? This is a big win for us. She'll just go, Dad, I'm so excited. Like, she's literally bursting. Yeah. I'm like, what for? She's like, I don't know. I'm just... Yeah. It's unreal, isn't it? That's ADHD.
I can remember I used to be in my house and sometimes I'd just scream. Yeah. But not a scream, not a blood cut, but just like an excited scream. My mum would be like, what are you doing? I'd be like, I don't know. But all this energy was in me. I'd be like, ah!
Amazing. Kim Raine, where's the best place for people to find out more about you?
Entrepreneurs ADHD Coach on social media. Yep. And Kim Raine with an E, come and find me. And
Kim Raine with an E, come and find me. I'm on the place to be, and now I'm on the MIC. Kim Raine, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mort. What an awesome session.
Thank you, legend.
Thank you.